Hi Nymfam, welcome back to 5 Things FPL. Hope you all had a lovely international break, but it's time to get back into FPL mode again. So let's get chatting about the big discussion points that face us ahead of Game Week 8 and get Fergie in so we can deconstruct this. Hi Fergie, what's occurring buddy? How you doing?
Hi Nim, I'm really well. How was your international break been?
Yeah, it's been good, thank you. Seen some family, it was really chilled, didn't really think about FPL too much, but now it's time to get stuck in again, so we need to get thinking about Game Week 8. So let's get started here with our Game Week 8 captaincy options. So what you're saying, I'm assuming Salah is the most popular out there. Are you on Salah yourself?
Yeah, and I've looked at all the polls, and I don't think I've seen one poll with him under 80, like under 80%. So, with his ownership, he's going to be the massive, overwhelming captain, and quite rightly so. I mean, his performance against Man City was just absolutely out of this world. I think I've been guilty in the past, previously, of maybe underrating Salah sometimes an FPL option, because he does, when he's not playing well, he just tend to kind of drifts kind of on the right hand side, and I've undervalued him. But my goodness, that goal he scored was absolutely out of this world. So yeah, Salah, I'm expecting an effective ownership of probably around 185, 190% around my rank. So there's no way I'm going against him, and there's no need to, because he's the best player with the best fixture. What about yourself? Are you going rogue, or are you going for Salah?
No, definitely going for Salah with his 6 goals and 4 assists this season. He's pretty consistent, although if I were to choose a Maverick pick this week for captaincy, I like the look of Son. If you've kind of got him in your wild card, then I think, he could be a potential shout with his 3 goals and 2 assists so far. So yeah, I quite like the idea of potentially, if you really didn't like that early fixture there for Salah, because I know it puts a lot of people off for captaincy. If I had Son in my team, then he'd probably be my next best option, I think. Would you go for him or anyone else on a Maverick pick?
Yeah, I think, Son obviously looked really good in the last match. I think for a Maverick pick, I'd be more tempted by Jamie Vardy. So they've got Man United, who are going to be without Maguire and Varane.
Yeah,
they haven't even looked good without them anyway. We know, as kind of frequently disappointed Luke Shaw owners, that I think they've only kept like 1 clean sheet all season anyway. So without Maguire and Varane, they've relied on De Gea pulling off worldie after worldie. Vardy has just been on fire. So I think that Vardy is going to do well this weekend, actually. So he would be my Maverick pick. He's one of those, never quite have him in your team because of his price point, but he's a fantastic option.
Yeah, and he loves a goal against a big team as well, doesn't he? So, all right, well, let's move on to our discussion point number 2. And what's your thoughts on WERNER, Fergie? Because he seems to be turning a few heads on FPL's social media at the moment. I think it's 4 goals, 1 assist, 6 shots created, and 14 shots on target in the last 6 appearances for club and country. So I think people have gone a bit mad on this whole club and country thing. So what's your thoughts around WERNER?
Well, I must admit, when you kind of messaged me, is there an option? I thought you had a couple of cans or something. I thought you
been on the Bacardi
sort of thing, on the Bacardi.
Too much rum. Him's on the rum again.
Yeah, not for me. For a variety of reasons. Obviously, the first one is he's classed as a striker. You'd be kind of opposing Lukaku. His price. I'm not. I haven't looked. I'm not even sure of his price. But I'm assuming he's something like
8.6 million.
8.6. I mean, you can get Antonio, Calvert-Lewin, Wilson is back fit for Newcastle, and there's
not that headache again.
There's masses and masses of options. So I just think, Chelsea haven't actually been scoring a lot of goals this season either. I think he's an option if you're purely looking for just to be completely different.
Yeah.
But he's one of those players. If he didn't start on the weekend, we'd be really surprised. If they started with Mount and Havertz either side of Lukaku, I wouldn't be surprised. So for me, it's a massive, massive no. What about you?
I just saw this on social media, and I basically thought the same as what you thought when I messaged you. I was like, WERNER, where's this come from? But I guess, as a differential, 1.7% owned, he would be that. If you got him and he banged, then you'd be happy days. But I do worry about the rotation, and to be honest, he is WERNER, so I don't feel like there's a whole lot of trust in him at the moment. I think it's because he's done a little bit better than Lukaku in previous weeks, and people have kind of latched on to that a little bit. But still, I think I would prefer the flat track bully than WERNER, because otherwise I feel like he's very much a kind of confidence player, and he obviously is getting more confidence now. Yeah, I'm still not completely convinced by him.
I did see a stat actually a couple of weeks ago, and I feel a bit sorry for him. I think he's had something like 14 goals disallowed in the last calendar year,
No way.
which is a lot of goals, for kind of VARs and offsides and whatever else. That is a lot of goals. Imagine even added another kind of 9 or 10 goals on the table last year. He'd probably be a serious option.
Yeah, but, true.
Yeah, with Lukaku there playing in that number 9 role, WERNER would be coming from the left-hand side. He might score a couple of goals, but the other options are far too enticing for me.
Agreed. Yeah, I think I'd need to see a lot more from him before jumping aboard. Great stuff. Moving on to number 3 then. And as always, it's who is our player if we own this week that we'd ship out. So lots of international injuries and complications around COVID restrictions. What are we saying on this one, Fergi?
Well, for me, in players like, I don't know, Rafinha, potentially Jota, and, those sort of players, to me, they're the kind of players I kind of want long term, especially Rafinha. Jota's a bit, we may get rid of Jota in a couple of weeks, depends how his minutes are managed, in terms of the next few games. But for me, the player which I cannot wait to get rid of is Luke Shaw, because he's been so disappointing. And even when he started last week, because he was injured, wasn't he, in the week?
Yes, he was.
Sorry, he was unwell, or wherever it was. And even when he was starting, I even said on deadline stream I did, even if he starts, he's going to get like 1 or 2 points. I don't know kind of why we're all stressing, because he's just not going to keep a clean sheet, because United don't do clean sheets. So
I think they've had 1 this season. One.
Is that 1 in 7 game weeks? It's pretty poor. And they're actually going on a hard run now as well. They've got Leicester and all these games all coming up now. So he's definitely gone for me. I suppose just in terms of advice for players like Rafinha, Jota potentially, but if you do want them long term, I would personally hold on to them. Rafinha looks like an amazing option. If he misses game week 8, okay, fair enough. They've got really good fixtures.
There's a reason why Brazil wants to keep him right for that last game. It's because he's just crack on at the moment.
and his fixtures. So away to Southampton in game week 8. The next 3 games after that, home to Wolves, away to Norwich, home to Leicester, and even in game weeks 14 and 15, they've got Palace and Brentford at home as well. Their fixture stretch on and on. He is looking sensational. So if you sell him, you're going to want him back. And do you really want to use 2 of your 37 transfers over the season on taking out? I just don't get it. I don't understand it. So no, I wouldn't. Sure, for me. What about you?
Yeah, Shaw is like number 1, because I'm definitely like, he's on the hit list. For me, it has been for a couple of weeks, but like needs must was last week that I just kind of felt like he may get some game time over other people. But hey ho, as it was, it turned out the plain Livramento was the best option there. But typical. And we know if we'd played Livramento and left Shaw on the bench, it would have been the other way around. Exactly how it is. But the other 2 that are kind of on the watch list for shipping out for myself, and I know you're in a similar boat, is Benrahma, because he seems to have kind of dropped off a little bit, and Greenwood's. Obviously, as you say, United's fixtures are getting a bit tougher now, and since Ronaldo's been in, yeah, there's that worry about how much of an opportunity he's going to get to actually expand on his 3 goals and 1 assist. You know, he hasn't had many. I can't say he hasn't had many like options the last couple of game weeks, because he has. He's definitely hitting the stats still. He's just not necessarily getting the finishes that we need in our teams, really. And I've noticed that his price has dropped this international break. So I think a lot of people have got off of Greenwood. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely another one. So Rashford is back in training as well. I think he scored a couple of goals in a friendly as well in the last week or two. So, you know, Ronaldo demands all the attention up front, demands the
Yeah.
ball. Greenwood, as you say, statistically, you know, he's actually been doing okay. I think in game
Hmm.
week 6, it's like 8 shots and 2 on
Yes.
target, which is quite a lot.
Ridiculous.
But United just haven't looked very good. And
Mm,
again, it's kind of looking at better options around, you know,
yeah.
around that price point. Even in defence, you know, you could spend that on better option defence, maybe even up front as well. So yeah, I think Greenwood is definitely one. With Ben Rama, he hasn't scored many FPL points in recent games, but I still think he's looked quite dangerous. And
Yeah.
the fixtures are still okay for a couple of weeks. I think the difference for me with Greenwood and Ben Rama, I think Greenwood looks a natural sell in terms of, you know, form is definitely his individual form has dropped off, his team form has dropped off,
Yeah.
his you know, and the fixtures are toughening up. I think the difference with Ben Ram, I think he's actually been a bit unfortunate not to return over the last few weeks. So that's that's what I kind of look at when I look at who to keep and who to
Hmm.
take out. I think there's multiple factors to take out Greenwood with, not so much with Ben Rama. It's just that Ben Rama hasn't been scored many FPL points. That's
Yeah.
the only reason why I think we're looking at taking him out. But I'm happy to leave him for a week or two, you know, and see how he does.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's move on to number 4. We've discussed who we get rid of, but let's chat about who we'd get in. Now, there's a lot of people on wildcards here
Mm.
ahead of game week 8. Who would be your like number 1 pick on a wildcard going into game week 8?
Yeah, I was kind of half tempted to wildcard this week, but I think the thing is I'm not too far away from the team I wildcard into, but the
Mm.
player I'm bringing in this week and that, you know, I'm taking a hit for actually just because I think he looks so fantastic is Cancelo at City.
Yeah.
He's just got that perfect blend now coming out. He's played every game so far. He's looked very dangerous. He should have scored a couple of goals this season. He's had plenty of chances. I think he definitely had 1 assist. He might have had 2, but he's got that really good blend of, you know, he's very very attacking, but also plays for the best defense in the league too. Coincided with a nice run of fixtures. So for me, he is, you know, he's the person to bring in. He also, when he didn't start last season, he didn't actually come off the bench either. So someone
Mm.
like Livramento can cover him, you know, if he does have an odd,
True.
you know, have an odd random sort of benching as well.
Yeah.
I'm not so hot on maybe players like Foden and Torres, just because, you know, even though they're fantastic players, there's 6 players basically vying for the front 3, so you just never know. They're playing lots of games this next month as well before
Mm.
the next international break. They've got Champions League, Carabao Cup.
True.
So this
Yeah.
is why I'm not that bothered for
To load
those.
up. Mm.
Other than that, the player I'm kind of interested in, and I know, I know well, it's not so much for game week 8, but in the next few weeks, their fixtures turn a lot, and obviously because they've been bought out now, you know, I think we're going to see a
Mm.
new Newcastle team. But Callum
Yeah.
Wilson for me is someone who looks very interesting over the next few weeks. Their
Mm.
fixtures from game week 12 reads home to Brentford, and then they've got Arsenal, and they're home to Norwich, home to Burnley in 14 and 15. So
Mm.
3 home games in 4. I know it's a little bit kind of later down the line,
Yeah.
but whenever Wilson plays, he seems to score. I never own him, so I never get his points. But um, you know, on
Yeah,
pens as
everyone's
well,
on ASM at the moment, aren't they?
they are.
If
But
they've got a Newcastle forward.
they are.
So
But I think, you know, I think he's obviously in the, you know, in the form of his life. But I think
mm.
he'll bring the best out of Wilson as well. You know, in terms of creating with opportunities, creating space, because
Oh,
everyone's going to try and tackle, take maximum and leave kind of
mm.
Wilson by himself. They're going to have this new owner bounce. Players are literally
True.
playing for their futures as well, right? You know, in
True,
terms
yeah.
of every player there, think, my goodness, I'm going to be
Come
sold. They're going to bring
January,
on
I could be
superstars.
I could be
This is
out.
it. So yeah, I think he's interested in me.
Yeah, it's a
But
good
for
shout.
me, I think Cancelo is the person I would break the bank to bring over the next few.
Hmm.
You got your eye on anyone else now?
Yeah, I quite like the look of Huang, is it? From Wolves,
Yeah,
5.6 million, 4.1% owned. I think he's played his way into that team,
yeah,
and I can see him getting, more minutes for a very cheap forward. So if I was on a wild card, he'd definitely be up there. In fact, even not on a
yeah,
wild card,
yeah.
he's a
It's fair.
consideration to maybe move Richardson up. So yeah, he's kind of on the radar. Obviously, I mentioned Son earlier on, and if I was a little bit nervous about Huang, then I'd probably go Jimenez just to know I was
Yeah,
completely secure. But I think that's maybe why I'm kind of shying away from the wild card a little bit, is that it gives me maybe another week or two to see whether the likes of somebody like Huang is absolutely nailed. Because if he is, I mean, at that price, even if he's 5.7 or 5.8 by the
I
time I
agree.
get to him, it'll still be a nice little pickup there. But like yourself, I want to get rid of Shaw and I need some City defence in. So it's probably going to be one of Cancelo or Diaz for
Yeah,
myself as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at with those. Although I wouldn't necessarily be looking to double up in those defences, because I know a lot of people initially were very much on the whole, let's double up on Chelsea or let's double up on City. Not for me, especially when knowing Trent is back. I think I'd
same.
like to edge my bets, I guess, against a couple of different teams. And
You're right. And if you wild card into a team for the next 4 game weeks, I mean, look at Spurs run also from game week 12, right? Kane is going to be the captain of choice from game
yeah,
week 12 onwards. He's got Leeds
mhm,
at home, which he will be the best captaincy option without a doubt there. They're then away to Burnley, then home to Brentford and home to Norwich, right? So if
nice.
you smash your team in with all these really expensive, you know, defenders and essentially pigeonhole your team for the next 4 weeks,
Mm,
let's not forget your second wild card is probably it's normally always used in like the final third of the season. You're
yeah.
stuck with this team for 20 game weeks. Why would you only target on the next 3 or 4 weeks? I think I mentioned this before. I like to try and leave my team in a constant
Mm,
state of pivot, if that makes sense. So you
flexibility, yeah.
never go all in on something. You can
Mm,
always move quite quickly to the next big thing, both in
agreed.
terms of teams, number of players, formation, structure, all this sort of thing. So
Mm,
I completely agree with you. Having someone like, Trent, Rudiger, and Diaz or Cancelo, he's
yeah.
got great defense, and also allows you to have Salah and Lukaku and everyone else you want. So yeah, I think we're on the same thing there.
I think we're going to have our ears glued to that Chelsea press conference, and we're hoping that he says that Rudiger is good and Lukaku is good. Otherwise,
I know,
then
otherwise it's
maybe.
bench. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that brings us on to our fifth and final discussion
Yeah.
point, actually. And I guess we should touch upon what to do about all these potential injuries and COVID restrictions. What's the thoughts if you have already used your wildcard, Fergie, and
Mm.
or if you're like us not wanting to use it, what we should do if we are staring down the barrel of missing maybe 3 or 4 players, if Lukaku, say, is out or Rudiger is out. We know Rafinha is unlikely to be playing game week 8 now. Thankfully, Trent is back, but if you happen to have another player there, let's say that's picked up an injury or doesn't look to be starting in game week 8, what would be your suggestions there?
So the way I've always played the game is that I always look at my rank and my team in blocks. And yeah, if you look at Trent, for example, in game week 7, right? So he was missing for game week 7. A lot of people took him out and replaced him with, City defenders, Chelsea defenders to try and get ahead of the curve. Now Trent has been asked back fit for game week 8. And lots of people are thinking, oh, I haven't got Trent for game week 8, which
Yeah.
they kind of knew when they took him out. And this is the way I kind of think about it. If you look at the players we're talking about specifically, right? So Lukaku and Rudiger are both home to Norwich in game week 9.
Hmm.
Um, Rafinha will mentioned him and his incredible run of fixtures for the next 6 or 7 game weeks. Jota, maybe the only one. I can understand people wanted to get rid of Jota if they want the kind of 90-minute sort of man. I personally don't mind him having the old bench in because I'm quite confident
Same.
he comes on and does stuff anyway, right? So,
and I quite like Liverpool's fixtures at the moment.
exactly.
They're not terrible.
So, like, my advice would be, I suppose, balancing it up. Would I rather have 10 men for game week 8 and maybe score a couple of points less than others, but retain a very, very good team? Or would I rather have out 11 players who may or may not do better than the 10? Because, one player very, very rarely, kind of massively influences a game week like that. We've got Salah, so, it's not like we, haven't got the
captaincy.
I've got the best captain. We've got most of the bases covered as well. But over the period, then when we come to Chelsea at home to Norwich next week, do you really want to be taking out Rudiger just to win it back in the next week? I just think no, you wouldn't. So, if you look at game weeks 1 to 7, we said to me at the start of the season it'd be ranked 250 odd K with wild cards in the pocket. Absolutely snap your hands off. And I think, going through these next few weeks again, if I'm looking at it and thinking, these next 4 or 5 game weeks, total in terms of points and rank, where do you want to be? Having 10 players for 1 game week is not the worst thing if you're still holding on to a pretty fantastic team. So that's my view. But I know it's not popular amongst FPL, and it's maybe because I played other games where this is a lot more kind of normal and common. But what are your thoughts on it?
Kind of similar. I think I'm willing to give my team another week is how I'm looking at it, and how I described it in my video is that it's had a couple of weeks where it's not done so well. And last game week was a little bit damaging because it hurt the rank a little bit more. But I think it's the sort of situation where it feels like everything is still changing week by week. And at the moment, Wolves players look great, Son looks great, Vardy's looking great, and I'm there going, I've made a wild card, but I've made 7 wild cards, and I'm looking at all of these wild cards and like every single one of them, and I'm thinking, what's to stop me hitting, the button on one of these, and then a week down the line thinking, oh no, I should have gone for wild card 5, So I think that's kind of where I'm at with the whole using the wild card and wanting to be able to keep it. Is I would rather limp through this week, make sure my team is, like you said, all there. So obviously we would like Rudiger and we'd like Lukaku to be back for that Norwich fixture in game week 9. If it looks like they're not, then obviously I can reassess that at the time. But at the moment, hopefully if they are out, hopefully it's only one match. And then it's just looking, obviously if I took a massive rank drop again this week, I'd have to seriously consider it, I think, and go, okay, my team now isn't matching everyone else's. I need to change what the problem is here. But for the moment, it's only last week that's really hurt. And even then, as you say, I'm still in a very similar rank to you. So it doesn't feel like a massive hurt yet or a massive need to damage control. So I am staring down the barrel of potentially missing Lukaku, Rudiger and Rafinha, and potentially Jota not starting, potentially Greenwood not starting. If I keep Greenwood, he may go as a -4 for me. Then, yeah, okay, I could be without players. But like yourself, I think I'm willing to take the hurt this week in exchange for more information. And it's something that I've learned from you in the weeks previous, is that I'm just trying to be really patient with it. Because I know if this was me last season, I'd have probably hit the button in game week 3. And if I hadn't have done, I definitely would have hit it by now. Yeah. The whole point about hitting the wildcard button is for 2 reasons. It's either to completely reinvent your team because it's not doing very well, or secondly, to completely get ahead of the curve. And at the moment, I don't feel like we can completely get ahead of the curve by wildcarding. There's no real big fixture swings or anything like that. Yes, it would be nice to maybe have a Wolves attacker, potentially have one of Vardy or Son, but it doesn't feel integral at this moment in time.
Right.
And the second option, I can't say that my team is you know, completely off it yet, because had I have played Livramento over Shaw last week and captain Salah, we'd have got a green arrow. So when you think of it like that, it's nothing to do with my overall team. That was a managerial error. That wasn't my team's fault. So I really should give them another chance to, you know, to figure out whether or not they are ready to be kind of chucked in the bin and go to the shop and buy a new lot yet. And so for that reason, I think I'm very much in your ballpark. If you can get through game week 8, and it's going to be a bit of a, you know, it could end up being a bit of a difficult one, but if you can get through it, then you'll have more information. If you've already used your wild card, then maybe take a hit or two to try and, you know, to try and get back on it again. But otherwise, I think it's absolutely fine to just take another week's worth of information before kind of deciding what you want to do. I think that's probably where I'm at with it.
Oh, I think you made some really good points there, and yeah, I'm definitely agree. You know, it's up to everyone. You know, it's team specific, but looking at my team, I could probably only massively improve it by like 2 players. I think I've got everyone I want, or I'm getting. I mean, this week I'm probably getting in Buemo, who I really fancy. You know, I think he's going to have a really good
looks
run,
great.
and yeah, and they're going to have, you know, Trent, Rudiger, Cancelo, Rafinha, Mbemo, Salah, Benrahma, Antonio, Lukaku, etc., etc. I can't really think who I would want. And if you know, if I wanted Vardy, for example, I wouldn't be able to afford a City defender or something like that. So, you know, I'm just going to leave it, and I will see.
Yeah, agreed. And that's where having that extra bit of information on, say, Huang would be quite nice, because if we need some sort of Wolves attack and he starts again in game week 8, then, you know, we know he's cheap enough to look at as a potential third striker for us, and he's easier to get to than, say, somebody like Vardy. So, yeah, you know, at the moment, I'm really trying to play the game on get more information rather than reacting to certain situations. So that's definitely where I'm at. Okay, that's it, you guys. That's our 5 things for Game Week 8. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. We love to hear from you. You can also find a link to Fergie's Twitter page in the description below. If you've enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe. So it's a goodbye for now from myself and a goodbye from Fergie.
Best of luck all for Game Week 8. Hope you smash it.
Thanks for joining me, buddy. Nymfria times Fergie out.